I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. On the Senate floor Thursday, Senator Mike Lee discussed the, quote, unprecedented crisis on our southern border. The Utah Republican also blasted the Department of Homeland Security under Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Lee claimed DHS has made, quote, the asylum process a mere rubber stamp for basically anyone who can make it to our borders. This comes as Republicans and Democrats are locking horns over Title 42, a Trump-era border policy. Let's listen in for more.
I rise to support this Congressional Review Act resolution of disapproval of the rule recently published by the Department of Homeland Security and the Executive Office for Immigration Review, entitled, quote, Procedures for Credible Fear Screening and Consideration of Asylum, Withholding of Removal, and Cat Protection Claims by Asylum Officers, close quote. Madam President, we're currently experiencing an unprecedented crisis on our southern border. As of April of this year, 4 months into 2022, over 1 million illegal crossers had been encountered at our southern border. And with the administration fighting the migrant protection protocols and moving to remove the Title 42 restrictions on entry, this crisis is about to get much, much worse. We've heard estimates of unauthorized border encounters this summer ranging close to 20,000 daily. We don't know how to handle these numbers, and nothing has been done by the administration to deter these immigrants. Despite knowing of the coming influx and despite understanding the statutory mandates, which require immigrants to be detained, this administration is closing detention centers. It appears we now have fewer than 20,000 detention beds available. This seems to suggest that DHS has no intention of detaining these immigrants, even though it's plainly required by statute. In the midst of this unprecedented crisis at our southern border, the Department of Homeland Security, under Secretary Mayorkas, has, by regulation, bypassed duly enacted laws to make the asylum process a mere rubber stamp for basically anyone who can make it to our borders. Because of the internet and the sophistication of coyotes and cartels, every alien encountered knows to express fear of returning to their home country, thus triggering the asylum process. This rule would change that adversarial process, whereby one actually has to produce some shred of evidence that they'll qualify for asylum, to a non-adversarial process, whereby the alien merely has to assert the claim. Additionally, this rule would take the asylum decisions out of the hands of immigration judges and put them into the hands of frontline screeners who often have no legal skills at all. This rule violates current immigration laws passed by this body, laws enacted by Congress. It violates the separation of powers by usurping congressional authority to enact the laws of the nation. Currently, under the law, until an immigration judge has ruled on an asylum claim, the claimant is required to be detained. Under the proposed rule, there'd be no need for detention because no time will be required to rubber stamp that asylum application. It just happens. It's very interesting that this rule is about to go into effect right before this already unprecedented crisis exponentially increases. I don't think this is by accident. It's by design. This rule demonstrates that they simply want to manage the unprecedented influx of illegal immigrants into every American city, making every town a border town. America has always been a welcoming land, a land with outstretched arms, and it always should be. I'm very proud of Utahns for how well they exemplify that welcoming spirit to immigrants, including the refugees and the asylum seekers who come into our state. I'm also concerned that if we degrade the process by administrative rule, we erode our ability to give refuge and asylum in the cases where it's truly needed, in the cases where, as a representative body, we've decided it should be given. Now, in studying this rule, I was struck by the fact that it assumes asylum is a right, a legal right for anyone and everyone managing somehow to get to our border. It is not a right. Asylum is a gift the United States can choose to bestow on those who really need it, the persecuted, when authorized by law and consistent with the terms of the law. This rule doesn't ever mention the interests of the American citizen in this process. Not once. The interest that would usually be represented in the adjudicative adversarial process that occurs before a judge. The American people are left out of this process. In fact, that process is eliminated by this rule. Indeed, this rule is completely unconcerned with the interests of the American people. It prioritizes the claimed interests of illegal immigrants over the interests of our own people and American national security. It must be struck down, and I encourage my colleagues to support it.